All right, so one of the things that these three religions have is they are all monotheistic, and that means they all three of the religions believe that there is one God. Okay. All right, someone else just came in. Guys, y'all got to get here on time, please. All right, Paris, make sure your camera's on, please. All right, so Judaism, Christianity, and Islam are prominent religions practiced in the Middle East. 90% of this whole region considers themselves, they call themselves Muslims. That means they practice Islam. 4% of the Middle East is Christian. That's a very small percentage, guys, because Christianity has the most followers in the world. So imagine in all of the Middle East, only 4% of those, the people there are Christians. So that's remarkable that such a low percentage on this part of the world, and yet it's got the most followers in the world. And 2% of the followers of Judaism are from the Middle East. That's very small as well, although worldwide there's not very many Jews compared to Christians and Muslims. Israel is the only country in the world where most of the population considers themselves Jews. Okay. All right. These religions have some similarities and even a common history. Followers of each of these three religions are practice monotheism, which I said is the belief in one God. So that's one thing they all have in common. All right, so we're talking about the Middle East. So this is the area that we're talking about. So if you notice, most of this map is colored either light peach or dark peach. Both of those colors represent people who follow Islam, okay? There's two different sects of Islam, S-E-C-T-S. Either you would consider yourself a Sunni Muslim or a Shia Muslim. As you can tell, this light peach is the biggest area. So most Muslims in the world consider themselves Sunni Muslims. Okay. Then look at this little tiny purple section over here. And this is a map of that area blown up. That, like I said earlier, those are people who consider themselves Jews. And like I said earlier, Israel is the only country in the world where the majority of the people are Jewish. And then look at the little red sections, guys. Those are the only sections where Christians are found in a large enough number to be on this map. So very few Christians in the Middle East. All right, so like I said, they all believe in one God. They all started, so you're gonna, when you fill out your Venn diagram, you're gonna need some similarities. Another similarity is they all started here in the same area in the Middle East, and all three religions trace their roots back to Abraham. Have any of you heard about Abraham and Sarah in the Bible? Yeah, so all three of the religions consider Abraham their one of their fathers, the father of their religion. Jerusalem in Israel, Jerusalem is the most holy city in the world for Jews and Christians. And also it's a very holy, it's like the top three, the third holiest city for Muslims. So that one city of Jerusalem is very, very important to all three religions. So when you're looking for similarities between the three religions, this is a great page to look on, okay? They all three have an important messenger and their own holy texts. All right, Wyatt's coming in. Oh my goodness. Hi, Wyatt. You got to try to get here on time, buddy, okay? All right, so here is a picture of Israel. So this building right here is actually a building built by Muslims. This is the site right here that was home to the very first tabernacle built in the Old Testament for Jews. All right, so that tabernacle was destroyed twice. It was rebuilt twice. The third time it was destroyed, it wasn't rebuilt. And Muslims put a building on it. So this piece of property right here in this picture is the most fought over piece of property in the entire world, All right, so we're moving on to Judaism. So right now, all we've talked about is what the three religions have in common. All right, so as far as Jews, if you're a follower of Judaism, you are called Jews. Now, that word Jews is unique because it actually means three different things. So if you say I'm a Jew, you have to be more specific, because saying that means that can describe your nationality. Because if you are living in Israel, people living in Israel are called Jews. If you follow Judaism, you call yourself a Jew as a religion. And also it represents ethnicity. Okay, so if I was going to describe myself about my nationality, my religion, and my ethnicity, I would say I am a Caucasian, non-Hispanic, Caucasian, Christian, and I'm an American. So that's three different words, right? Three different terms to describe that. However, if I say I'm a Jew, people are going to say, what does that mean? You follow Judaism? Does that mean that you are from Israel? Or does that mean that's your ethnicity? You're Jewish. Okay. So that term is kind of unique in that way. Judaism was founded by Abraham, like in the Old Testament, about 2,000 years before the birth of Christ. Jews believe that God gave Moses the 10 Commandments. And if you're a Christian as well, you've heard about Moses and the 10 Commandments, because Judaism and Christianity was the same. Well, so Christianity didn't start until after the life of Jesus, right? So when Jesus was born, he was actually born a Jew. He was raised a Jew. His parents were Jews. And it was after Jesus's life, death, and resurrection that Christianity, that's what Christianity means, to be like Christ, right? So before Jesus Christ lived on the earth, there was no such thing as Christians. So the beginning of Christianity and Judaism, they go neck and neck. It's the same people, it's the same books, it's the same Old Testament. All right, so Moses's books, which are the first 5 books of the Old Testament, is called the Torah, and this makes up a third of Jews' holy book. The Jewish holy book is the Tanakh, which is the oral and written history laws of the Jews. All right, looks like Jeremy's coming in. Let me mark it down. Wyatt, Kellen, y'all got to keep those cameras on, please. Hey, Jeremy, you got to get here on time, buddy. All right, so here is a copy of the Torah, which you can see is on some scrolls. So before there were books, there were scrolls. And then, of course, here is a drawing or painting of Moses once he came off the mountain with the 10 Commandments in his hand. All right, Jews believe that they descended from Abraham and Sarah, the first people to actually worship God, or in the Bible, his name is also Yahweh. Abraham lived at least 3,700 years ago in the city of Ur, which is along the Euphrates River. And the Euphrates River in this area is now, we call it Iraq. And there's an actual photograph, guys, an actual photograph of Sarah and Abraham. Isn't that amazing? I'm just kidding. It's not a photograph. It's a drawing. All right. So anyway, Moses is considered a great prophet, a person who receives messages from God. So they believe God, Jews and Christians believe that when Moses was up on the mountain, God gave him, he heard the audible voice of God giving him the 10 Commandments. Moses led Israelites out of Egypt and away from slavery into what they call the Promised Land, Israel. Jews believe that God gave Moses the 10 Commandments, a code of moral law to live by. The 10 Commandments are found in the Jewish holy book called the Torah, which are written laws of the Jews. And there are the 10 Commandments, the most important commandments. You're probably familiar with those, a lot of you. All right, so Israelites. So when we talk about Israelites, they are also called Hebrews right now. And they claimed that the city of Jerusalem, the Israelites claimed the city of Jerusalem and built a holy temple there. That temple I was talking about, that's now got the building made by Muslims on it. Hi, Luke. You guys are really, really late. Y'all got to try to get here on time, okay? All right, so between 700 and 500 years before the birth of Christ, Roman invaders captured Jerusalem and they destroyed the first temple. Now, King Solomon is the one who built the first uh, tabernacle or the temple, and it was destroyed. But then they built it back. And once they built it back, that's the temple that actually stood there when Jesus was here on earth, and he went to that temple. But then 70 years after Jesus died, the temple was destroyed, and it's never been built back since then. So today, there's actually a part of that original temple that you can find in Jerusalem right now, and it's known as the Western Wall of the Temple. And it's a very, very important place for Jews. They'll go there and they will pray. They call it either the Western Wall, which was the Western Wall of the Temple, or they also call it the Wailing Wall. And it is one of the most sacred sites recognized by the Jewish people. So this wall right here is what I'm talking about. It was actually part of the original temple that was built in Jerusalem. And Jews will go there daily. They'll stand in front of the wall. They'll pray. They write down their prayers and their wishes on pieces of paper, and they actually stick those pieces of paper into the cracks of this wall right here. Oh, and there's a picture of it right there. So this has been going on for hundreds and hundreds of years, you guys. Okay, I'm sorry, Jeremy and Luke, I just saw your message. That's fine. All right, so after the Romans took over Israel, and they basically sent all of the Jews out of Israel and around the world, and for 2,000 years, the Jews were scattered around the world. And because they had such a rich history and they had this special story of the Old Testament, a lot of people around the world said, you know what, this land, Israel, was given to the Jews by God himself. And so there was this movement that got stronger and stronger over the years. It's called diaspora. And that was basically people felt like the Jews should be allowed to come back into Israel and call this place their home. Now, what happened to the Jews that everyone knows about in the years leading up to and during World War II? What terrible thing happened to the Jewish people and other people? You were breaking up, Rocco, but I think you said Holocaust, right? Yep. So, of course, during World War II, Hitler blamed the Jews for all the problems of Germany. And so they just, killed about 6 million Jews, you guys. That's crazy. They put them in concentration camps, exactly. And not just Jews, but mostly the victims were Jews. There were other people as well. So because of that terrible thing, when the world realized what happened, this feeling of, guys, we got to give this land back to the Jews was even magnified even more. So that's when the United Nations came together and they said, you know what, you're right. This land was given to the Jews thousands of years ago by God himself. And so they actually created, once again, the country of Israel. And so Jews from all around the world have been came to Israel, and have still continued to come to Israel because they were, they felt like this land was literally their home, given to them by God. All right, so like I said, this feeling of let's pull diaspora is what was called when the Jews were forced out of Israel and they spread throughout the world. The Jewish people did not return to their homeland until the modern state of Israel was created back in 1948, after World War II was over. There were over 15 million followers worldwide, compared to 8 billion people in the world, guys. That's not a whole lot. Jews worship in synagogues and temples. They believe that a Messiah will lead them to the promised land. So when we talk about the difference like I said, when Jesus was born, he was a Jew. He was raised Jewish. And the thing that separates Christians from Jews is that Christians believe that Jesus is the Messiah that was promised in the Old Testament, but Jews don't believe Jesus was the promised Messiah. They're still looking for a Messiah. So that's what separates Jews from Christians. Jews believe in justice and righteousness. They said, what is hateful to you, do not do to your neighbor. All right, and here is a Jewish synagogue in Jerusalem. Like I said earlier, their sacred book is called the Tanakh, and it is a collection of writings compiled over a period of time. There are 3 books to the part. The Torah, which is part of the Old Testament, that's also part of the Holy Bible for Christians. This is the most sacred part. It contains what Moses delivered to the Israelites. There's 8 books of Psalms and Proverbs, and the Talmud, which is writings on Jewish law, history, and folklore. All right. So what holidays do they celebrate? They celebrate Hanukkah. This celebrates a victory where the Jews were able to keep their religion after being captured by the Greeks. They don't celebrate Christmas like Christians do, but Hanukkah falls about the same time of year. So when a lot of the world is celebrating Christmas, Jews are celebrating Hanukkah. Jews, during this victory, Jews were able to keep the temple lit for 8 days despite only having enough oil for 1 day. That's what Hanukkah is about. They also celebrate Passover. So this is when Jews had gone into Egypt, and Egyptians had made slaves out of them. And that's when Moses went to Pharaoh and said, I'm taking the Jews out of Egypt, and we're going to go to the promised land. Well, Pharaoh wouldn't let these people go. And so God caused all of these plagues. Y'all heard this? Y'all know this story? So there were 10 different plagues. The last plague that God sent against Egypt was what they called a death angel, which the firstborn son of every family died. And that's what got Pharaoh to change his mind. But so that the Jews wouldn't lose their firstborn sons, they had them kill a lamb, and they took the blood of the lamb and they put it over their doorpost. And when the death angel saw the blood on the doorpost, the death angel passed over that home and the firstborn son didn't die. And that's why they call it the Passover. And so this is a special holiday for Jews. Passover is considered to be their holiest holiday. Rosh Hashanah celebrates the Jewish New Year. Yom Kippur is known as the Day of Atonement. That's the day that Jews are asking for forgiveness of their sins. It's a very important day. For Jews, no work is allowed on this day, and much of the day is spent in synagogue. Many Jews fast during this day, which means they don't eat food. And then, like I said earlier, this is a picture of Jews coming to the Wailing Wall in Jerusalem, and they are praying at the Wailing Wall. All right, any questions or comments about Judaism? Okay, and what country in the world is the only country where most of the population are Jews? What's the name of that country? Israel. Yep. All right, so we're moving on to Christianity. Like I said, Judaism and Christianity overlap until the birth of Christ. So Christianity has its roots in Judaism. Christians believe in Jesus, a carpenter who began to travel and teach new ideas about Judaism around 30 years after his birth. He believed that the old laws of Judaism should be replaced by a simple system based on love and kindness. Christians believe that Jesus was the Messiah. Jews believe he wasn't. All right, so why do Christians believe that Jesus is the Messiah? Well, there's several different reasons, but let's say 30 years ago, someone said, in about 20 years, this baby boy is going to be born, and he's going to have brown hair, and he is going to be part of the virtual program of choice in Hall County. And on November 10th, 2022, he's going to be wearing a greenish teal shirt, and he's going to be on a Zoom meeting at 11:53 a.m. And then we look and see Christian. And I'm like, Christian, you have brown hair. You have a teal shirt on. You're part of the virtual program, and you're actually on a virtual Zoom at 11:53 a.m. You're the guy. You're the one they told us about 20 years ago. Well, that's kind of what happened. And that's the reason that Christians believe that Jesus is the Messiah, because there were all these prophecies given about him hundreds and hundreds of years before he was born. And Jesus fulfilled all of them. Like, there was prophecies given about his life, how he was going to die, where he was going to live, about his followers, all these different things about his life that was foretold hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years before his birth. And after looking at Jesus's life, we realized that Jesus fulfilled all of those prophecies about his birth, when, where, how, about his life and ministry, about his death, about his relationship with the church. Also, Christians acknowledge that Jesus is the only religious leader of any religion that actually was raised from the dead. There were eyewitnesses to his resurrection. There were written accounts, not only in the Bible, but also the Bible as well. And all of the disciples died. His followers, they all died because of what they said people didn't accept, and people were like, you better tell the truth or we're going to kill you. And they died for what they were telling people. All right, so Jesus performed miracles, and after people saw the results, they became followers. He laid his hand on people and could heal them. He used parables to link his teachings to people's everyday lives, and he gained a large following eventually. This is a picture of him delivering what is called the Sermon on the Mount. All right, Jesus was not popular with Jewish leaders. Yep, we have till 12:15. Class is over at 12:15. Yeah, that's right, Luke. We do talk about this in FCA. All right, Jesus was not popular with the Jewish leaders. So even though he was raised Jewish, he made a lot of the Jewish leaders very angry. They did not want him to threaten their power, and they had the Romans arrest him. So Jesus was crucified at the age of 33, and Christians believe that Jesus rose from the dead and went to heaven 3 days later. They saw the resurrection as a sign that Jesus was the Messiah. So at this time, that's when Christianity officially began. There's about 2.1 billion Christians worldwide, the most, more followers of any religion in the world. Christians are grouped by many denominations. So there's different, even though different groups call themselves Christians, even within those groups, there are differences. So if you're Catholic, you're either Catholic or you're Protestant. You could be Baptist, you could be Methodist, you could be Lutheran. There's different denominations of Christians following the teachings of Jesus. Christians worship in churches and chapels. Here is a Christian church in Lebanon. The main holy book for Christians is called the Bible. It consists of the Old Testament and the New Testament. The New Testament is all about Jesus, his life and his teachings. All right, as far as holidays for Christians, Christmas is the celebration of the birth of Jesus and observed on December 25th. Easter celebrates the death and resurrection of Jesus, and that's it. All right, any questions, comments? Oh, okay. All right, so the last one we're going to talk about is Islam. Islam began about 622 after the birth of Christ. And once again, one thing these all have in common is they all originated from the Middle East. So in Arabic, the word Islam actually means surrender to the will of Allah, which is their name for God. Followers of Islam are called Muslims, and their founder is Muhammad. Muslims believe that there's only one God, his name is Allah, and that Muhammad is the last and greatest prophet of Islam. Other prophets include Abraham, Moses, and Jesus. All right, so this is a, what is this telling us? Let's see. It's another map of the Middle East. Oh, so Muhammad was from this little city right here called Medina. And he is the one who started the religion of Islam. He didn't live there very long because people got mad at him and didn't like him there. So he actually moved to Mecca. So Mecca is actually located in Saudi Arabia. So the Muslims consider Mecca their most holy place. So inside Mecca in Saudi Arabia, there is this building here. It's an outside court, and there's a black box. And so this is considered the center of Islam. So one of the things is Muslims have to do is, if they're financially able, they have to travel to Mecca at least once in their life. They call it their pilgrimage. All right, so back in 610, Muhammad was an Arab merchant in Mecca who was concerned about how rich merchants refused to help the needy. He went to meditate on this in the cave of Hira. While there, Muhammad received a message from the angel Gabriel, a messenger of God. Muhammad became known as a prophet of Allah, and he continued to receive messages until his death. These messages formed the basis of Islam and were eventually written into the Quran, which is the Muslim holy book. Eventually, others began to listen to Muhammad's messages, and this angered Mecca's rulers. They threatened to kill Muhammad, and so he and several hundred of his followers fled to nearby Medina. You know what? I said that exactly backwards when we were looking at the map. I said he was born in Medina and moved to Mecca, but actually I got that backwards. Muhammad became a political and spiritual leader in Medina. Eventually, all of the Arabian Peninsula came to accept Muhammad's teachings and turn to Islam. So this is 2 pieces of paper where they actually had Muhammad's writing on them. So these are preserved in a museum. This was actually his hat, his robe, and his staff. Once again, those are in a museum in Mecca. And his swords. A piece of his hair. You can go to a museum in Mecca and see a piece of Muhammad's hair and his sandal, you guys. All right, so this is a building. This is called the Green Dome in Medina. The Green Dome in Medina. Muhammad's grave lies under the Green Dome. He died in about 632, but Islam continued to spread. Muslim armies conquered empires throughout Southwest Asia, Northern Africa, and the Iberian Peninsula in Europe. Today, there are 1.2 Muslims worldwide. 1 in every 5 people in the world is considered a Muslim. It's the second largest religion in the world behind Christianity, but I've heard recently that their followers, the number of followers is increasing faster than Christianity. So look at this, guys. Look at all these people. This is the place I was talking about where Muslims have to go on a pilgrimage at least once in their lives. So that's a lot of people, everybody. All the way back there. Everywhere you look, there's people. Over here, look at that. That's a lot of people. All right, so like I said, their holy book is called the Quran. It states how people should live their lives. It describes the 5 pillars of faith. Obligations all Muslims must fulfill in their lives. So here's someone reading from the Quran. So the 5 pillars of faith, this is the main duties of Muslims. Prayer, given to charity, belief in and submission to one God, fasting during the month of Ramadan, and taking a trip to Mecca once in their lifetime. There's another picture of their most holy place. So their holidays, Ramadan celebrates the time when the Quran was revealed to Muhammad. It's the 9th month of the Islamic calendar and lasts for 29 to 30 days. Muslims fast during daylight hours during this month. Prayer, reading the Quran, and charity are important parts of Ramadan. And here's a picture of some boys reading at a mosque during this holy month. Unlike other religions, in Islam, the Quran gives instructions on how laws should be enacted. The governments of Muslim countries follow Sharia law, which is different than having a constitution. They use the actual holy book as their guide and their rules for their country. This creates a theocracy, a type of government in which religious leaders are in control. Now, if you are a Muslim, you're either a Sunni Muslim or a Shia Muslim. Okay. After Muhammad's death, followers fought over who would be his successor and become the next leader. So the two different groups of Muslims, that's what they argue about. They argue about who should be in charge, who is our leader. So they split into two groups, the Shia Muslims and the Sunni. So the Shiites, the ones that call themselves Shia Muslims, believe that the supreme leader of the church should be a blood relative of Muhammad, should be a direct bloodline from Muhammad. But the Sunnis, only 10% of all Muslims in the world are Shia Muslims, very small percentage. This branch of Islam is mostly found in Iran and parts of Iraq. But Sunnis, however, don't believe that the leader of the church has to be a direct blood relative of Muhammad. They think that they should be able to pick whoever they want as the leader. So 90% of Muslims in the world consider themselves Sunni Muslims. And these two groups don't get along. Even though all of them are Muslims, they don't like each other, they don't get along, and they have fought quite a bit. All right, so that takes us to the Venn diagram that you guys have as your assignment for tomorrow. Okie dokie. Is Allah their God or Muhammad? So they believe that Muhammad was their leader. He's the one that started Islam. Muhammad was, and they worship one God, and they call God's name Allah. Okay. Someone else said, why do Muslim women have to cover their face and hair? That's a good question. Their religion is very strict on modesty. And they believe that a woman should only show herself to her husband. And so once a woman gets to a certain age, she has to literally cover every part of her body. And so they put these black sheets on their bodies, and all you can see is their little eyes through their, that's like in the book we read, right? Where do you think they go after they die? Who, Muslims? Is that who you're talking about? Are you asking about Muslims? Oh, you know what? I don't really know. I do know they believe in paradise. Their idea of paradise and Christians' idea of heaven vary quite a bit. I'm not an expert on Islam. And so I hate to answer that question because I don't know exactly, but they do believe in a place similar to what we call heaven as a Christian. But there's quite a lot of differences, and I don't want to go into it right now because I don't know much about it. But the thing I do know, I don't really want to say right now, but all right, so some Muslims wear a hijab. Hijab, is that how you say it? Which covers their hair. Yep, exactly right. All right, so let me talk real quick about the Venn diagram. So the directions on the Venn diagram say that you have to have at least 3 facts in every section of the Venn diagram. Okay, so here in the middle, everybody see? Right here, you're going to list 3 things that these 3 religions have in common. Okay, so you may want to throw something out there. There are, Layla, more than 2.1 billion Christians in the world. What do all 3 of these religions have in common? Somebody tell me one. Somebody says they all believe in one God. I agree. Yep. Anything else? What else do they have in common? All right. Anyway, I showed you the screen where you can find all the similarities. Remember? All right, so that goes right here. 3 facts that they all have in common. Okay, they all have a holy scripture, someone said. I like it. Yep, holy book. Good. All right, so you can't repeat. When you say, if you put right here that they all believed in one God, don't list it under each individual religion. If you put they all believe in one God here, you can't put it here or down here. You've already used that one. You got to use 3 different facts. Okay. On your actual assignment, I gave you the only one thing I saw that Judaism and Islam has in common. Okay. And then I also added, a couple of you opened it before I added this part. Besides the 3 things they have in common, I didn't see any other commonalities between Christianities and Islam. So this is the only section of the Venn diagram that if there's nothing written here, that's totally fine. Okay. So right here under Christianity, you're going to list 3 facts that's true just about Christianity. Over here, you're going to list 3 facts that are true just about Judaism. Same thing down here. I moved on yours. I moved this Sunni and Sunni box over. So just give me a quick description on what Shias believe and Sunni Muslims believe, but you still have to give me 3 facts about Islam. Okay. So what's going to go right here? What are we looking for? We want to see the commonalities between what 2 religions right here. What 2 circles are overlapping right here, you guys? Which 2 religions?
Judaism and Christianity.
Yes, exactly. So there are definitely at least 3 things that Jews and Christians have in common that they don't have in common with Muslims. So you're going to put that right here. Okay. Every single fact that you need to fill up this Venn diagram is in my notes. You don't have to Google anything. You just have to look back through my notes, and there is enough information for you guys to fill out this Venn diagram and get full credit. So is there any questions about how we're going to fill out this Venn diagram? Okay, so the thing I said earlier is this is the only section of the Venn diagram that you don't have to have anything here. But everywhere else needs 3 facts written, except for the one here, which I give you on the actual assignment itself. All right, everybody good? Okay, so do a good job on it. You have to earn all of your points because I've basically given you guys all the answers in my slide deck, which you have access to. Okie dokie. All right, guys. Well, that's all I had for today. So thank you for your attention. I appreciate it. Everybody have a great day and a happy weekend. Bye, everybody. See you later, alligators. Bye, Lily. Bye, Kellen. Bye, Jackson. All right, let me put them in a waiting room. Waiting room, Gabriel, waiting room. Hi, Kate. Oh, I had people. No, they're good. How are you, Kaylee?
Good, and you?
Good. What's going on, girl?
So I talked with my parents yesterday,
Okay.
and my mom is at work, but my dad is home, and he
Okay.
agreed to come on Zoom.
Okay.
He speaks Spanish, doesn't speak English.
Oh, wait, I'm so sorry. Let me, I'm going to stop the recording.